Good evening and welcome to our kindergarten registration orientation night. It looks like we have some people that are continuing to join us, so welcome. If you could do me a favor and mute your microphone, there's under the toolbar at the bottom of your screen, you will see a little microphone next to the start video button. If you could hit the mute button, that'll be great. That way we won't have any some feedback coming in and joining our conversations tonight. My name is Jimmy Wathen, and I am a specialist with the JCPS Early Childhood Department. I work in my work that I do with this initiative is kindergarten transition and ensuring that all of our JCPS preschool students make a successful transition to kindergarten. And part of that transition is the first step of that transition is completing the kindergarten application. Believe it or not, you know, you're probably thinking to yourself, wow, kindergarten's what, 9 months away? Why am I thinking about that now? Well, it's never too early to start thinking about kindergarten transition. And the first step in that is completing the JCPS kindergarten application during the priority application window. And so I am joined by a colleague in the JCPS Student Assignment Department, and who's actually going to do most of the talking this evening. But before I let her introduce herself and then a couple other JCPS staff members that have joined us, just a reminder, if you could please mute your microphone. But if you do have questions throughout the presentation this evening, we will have time for question and answers after the presentation. But also, if you have a question, think of a question as we go along when we're doing the presentation, feel free to put that in the chat box, and we have someone that will be monitoring the chat box for us this evening. I am also recording this presentation, so if you have some of your neighbors and friends that weren't able to make it to our presentation tonight, it will be shared with all of our preschool teachers who will get that presentation out. We'll probably put it on YouTube so people can access that as well. Or also, you know, you don't have to take notes tonight. You can go back and view the recording on YouTube at a later date as well. So with that being said, I will let the rest of our team do introductions. Lindsay.
Hi everybody, I am Lindsay Bale and I'm a supervisor in student assignment, and I just want to thank you for joining us tonight. This is a great turnout and we're just excited to be here to share this information with you because knowledge is power, and we want your kids to have a successful transition to kindergarten, and we want them to love school from the beginning. And so we're happy to be here. My colleague Terry is here, and I'll let her introduce herself as well.
Hello, everyone. I'm Terry Knight, and I'm also a student assignment. I am the Associate of School Choice, so I sort of know a lot about option and magnet programs for your kiddos, and I'm just excited to be here. I'm happy to help, and I hope you all enjoy the presentation. Thank you.
All right, Jimmy, I have a PowerPoint, if I can share it.
Hold on, I'm going to give you the rights. I'm going to make you the host.
Okay.
So that you will be able to, I think it should allow me to let you. All right, Lindsay, try now. See if you can share your screen.
Yep.
Great.
All righty. Okay, so we're going to talk about elementary school choice for the 21-22 school year. And so this is going to be for our students who will turn 5 before August of 2021. So if that's your child, you're in the right place. Where elementary application period is currently open, and we're talking about our students who will turn 5 before August of 2021. So first, how are students assigned to schools? So our elementary students are assigned to a cluster. So every address has a cluster of schools. Each cluster might have somewhere between 4 to 8 schools assigned to each address. And how you can find what cluster of schools is assigned to your address is by visiting our School Finder website. And you'll see right here, this main page, jcpskentucky.net. It's going to take you to our main home page. On there, you'll see a block that says Parents. Select that, and then you're going to select School Finder. And on the School Finder, you type in your address, and your cluster of schools will come up. Those are the schools that you can choose from in your cluster. So if you live in that cluster, you number those schools. And we'll get to that. You'll number your schools in order of preference, and then be assigned to one of those schools. We do have other options in the event that you're interested in a school that's aside from your cluster school. So we have our magnet schools, which are our schools that have a specialized program for the entire school. And then we have our magnet programs, which are magnet programs that are inside some of our other cluster schools. So how can you find out about the choice programs? You can find out there's choices brochures, and I will share this PowerPoint with Jimmy because this is going to link you right to our choices brochure. But you can see the choices brochure here, and this is going to have all of your options in it. It's going to describe every school. It's going to tell you whether you wear a uniform at this school or not. It's going to tell you if they have a family resource center coordinator at the school. It's going to tell you what their specialty is. Are they, let's see, do they have English as a second language? Do they have extended school services? So this book is like your early childhood guide. So it's your kindergarten guide, I'm sorry. So it's going to tell you all of your choices there. You can always call the schools. So if you have questions and you want to know the answer, you can give the school a call, talk to maybe a counselor, principal, assistant principal, and they should be able to answer your questions there. You can visit the school's website. So a lot of schools have really kind of beefed up their website so that you can get more information. We know that we're in a virtual world right now. And so you'll be able to find a lot of information on the websites. And then this year, because we couldn't have a showcase of schools, we are having our virtual open houses. This is also a link to that schedule. You should have also received a mailing. The mailing would have had your choices book, and it would have also had your open house schedule in it. All of the open houses are being held on the school's Facebook page. If you go to the open house schedule, it will link you directly to the Facebook page. You can click on it, it'll take you there. The date that is on the schedule is the date that it will be posted. You don't have to watch it at a particular time. Now, the question and answer session live will be at a particular time. So the school is supposed to post that morning what time their question and answer session will be that day. And that is live. So you can go to that Facebook page. You can watch the video anytime. And then you can do the question and answer session if you're able. So again, elementary schools are grouped in clusters of 5 to 8. Most students attend a school in their cluster. And so this just kind of shows you a map of how the clusters are divided. And so you'll see that they are color coded. And so they're all in different parts of the county, have different clusters of schools. And then I'm going to let Terry tell you about some of our magnet schools and programs. Oh, we can't hear you.
Sorry. So hello again, everyone. And so with magnet schools, you can see that we actually have, I think there are 4 magnet schools, and then there are the traditional schools. So we have Brandeis, which is a STEAM school, and it has math, science, technology, engineering, and arts. We have Lincoln, which is our only elementary performing arts school. Then we have Brown, which has a self-directed learning focus. It focuses on individuality and creativity amongst their students. And then we have Young. And Whitney M. Young has their International Baccalaureate program, and it focuses on global leadership. And then, as I mentioned, the traditional programs. Now, your attendance in the traditional, I know sometimes parents want to pick which traditional, and you really don't get the choice. If you pick the traditional program, it is based on where you live. So that the certain areas we have Audubon traditional, which you know is off Preston High, between Preston and Poplar Level Road. And then we have Carter, which is in the Park Duval neighborhood. We have Great House, which is in St. Matthews. And then we have Schaffner, which is in the Shavley area. So it is your assignment to a traditional program, if you select a traditional program, is based on your home address. And then we have magnet programs within schools. So you can see that certain schools, once you look through your choices guide, and Ms. Bell did hold up the choices guide, and I did as well. Remember, that has more details. If your student is into communications, a gifted talker, we have communications programs. We have, I don't want to read all these off for you, but we do have the environmental studies program, gifted talent and visual arts programs, health, fitness, and accelerated learning, international cultural studies in language. We have leadership academies. We have math, science, and technology, micro societies, Montessori programs, Spanish immersion programs, technology programs. In traditional schools, again, we have the traditional program schools, which are Shelby Traditional and Foster Traditional Academy. And then we have visual arts magnet programs and talent development programs. And if you look through your book, like I said before, just refer to this. This is your source for your elementary, this is your guidebook to help you select a school if your student may be interested in any of those programs, those magnet programs.
Terry, may I interrupt you for just a moment? We do have a question in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. And the question is, how do we know which traditional school coordinates with our assigned cluster since it is based off of address?
Okay. I believe, I know in school, we can tell you if you were to call call school choice, but you also in School Finder, am I saying this right, Lindsay? If you go into School Finder and you put your address in, it will tell you what schools are in your cluster, what your reside school is, even for middle and high school, based on your address, and it'll tell you what your traditional school is as well.
Yep, that's right. So it'll tell you it's going to have separate boxes. So your first box is going to have your cluster schools. You will have to click on that second box to see the magnet and the magnet schools and programs that are available to you. And in that second box is where you'll find which traditional school is associated with your address.
And Lindsay, before we go on, we do have one more question, and this is, how do you receive the booklet again, the choices booklet?
So they were mailed to all of our early childhood families. If you did not receive one in the mail, they are available online. And if you go to JCPS, the main webpage, and there's a big banner. That banner is going to say Virtual Showcase of Schools. You click on that, and in there are all of your choices brochures. And so you'll see an elementary, middle, and high. And of course, you want to look at the elementary one.
And we do have one more question. When will parents receive their child's portal activation key number so that they can register for the school?
So again, those should have been in the mailer you received. If you did not receive the mailer, I believe, Jimmy, you correct me if I'm wrong, your early childhood teachers should be able to give that to you. Our office can also provide that to you, and our number is here at the end of the presentation. But I believe that the early childhood teachers have access to those as well. Is that right, Jimmy?
Yes, that is correct.
So you can get that information from your teacher. Do we have another one? Another
It looks like we do.
Okay.
And this question is, let's see. So what if he is in school and this is his second day today? I'm not really sure. I'm sorry. I'm not sure I understand that question. So it might need to be elaborated in the chat group.
Okay. Well, we'll
Yeah.
keep going, and if something else comes up, you can just feel free to interrupt.
Oh, I see a few more too.
Yeah,
Okay.
here's one. Are we still able to see the virtual open houses if the date for the school has already passed? And where can we find the open house if it is either to be determined or doesn't have a link on the website?
So the virtual, if they have already happened, yes, you can go back. They should still be on the Facebook page for you to watch. Even if you don't have a Facebook account, you should be able to go on that page and watch. You won't be able to do the live question and answer without a Facebook page, but you will be able to view the video. Part of that question was if it doesn't have a link, I would just search for the school on Facebook, or call the school and ask them how they were presenting their information. The guidance given to them was to post it on Facebook, but I think when they linked them, some of them didn't have active pages yet, so they may have created a page since that time. So search for it there. Now, if particular school was to be determined, I guess that must be the case that somebody's looking at, because I wasn't aware that any of them didn't have actual dates. If that's the case, I would also call the school and ask them what date they determined. Maybe it wasn't prepared by the time we posted that schedule.
Lindsay, I think for the sake of time, we're going to move on, because I think a lot of some of the questions, not to everybody's question's important. Your question may be answered somewhere in the presentation, since Lindsay's just only gotten started. So what we're going to do, we will pause periodically to view the chat box and answer your questions. But I think for the sake of time, we're going to continue with the presentation, and then we will periodically look at the chat box, but we will promise we will answer everyone's questions before we're finished tonight.
Okay, great. So one thing I just want to mention about all these great programs that Terry told you all about. You know, this is a lot of choice, and sometimes parents get overwhelmed and it's like there's so much to choose from. But one of the biggest things we want parents to know is that there is a program in a school that will match your child's interests. So really just think hard and read as much as you can, watch the videos as much as you can, and gather as much information as you can to find a school that's a good fit for your child. Because we know that the more children are engaged in school, and they will be more engaged if it's something that they enjoy, then the more likely they are to succeed. So to complete an application, you do not need to complete a new registration. So only students who need to do a new registration are students who are not currently in JCPS. If your child is in early childhood at this moment, you do not need to complete a new registration. You simply will get that parent portal activation key, or you can use your parent portal username and password, and you'll complete the application. If you've moved, you will need to submit a new proof of residence so that we can update your address and you'll have the appropriate choices for your application. You can make, and I'm going to walk you through all of this in visuals. So I'm going to say this and then I'll show you exactly what it's going to look like. But you're going to get to make two choices for magnet schools or programs. You do not have to select magnet schools or programs, but if you are interested in magnet schools or programs, you can select two and put those on your application. For elementary, all magnet schools and programs are lottery selection. So that means it's a random draw. The students that get in are randomly selected. And so you will, if you're not selected, you will get a wait list number. And those wait lists are posted publicly, so you can always see what number has been admitted off the wait list, and you always know your position on that wait list. For your elementary, you have the choice or not to put the magnet schools or programs. You have to rank all of your cluster schools. So even if you look at your cluster and you think, I know that I only want this one school, you still have to rank all of the schools. It's not going to allow you to submit your application without ranking all of the schools. And we can't guarantee placement in any particular school. So that's why it's important. So parent preference is a consideration, but it's not the only thing that is considered when making school assignments. So you have to number all of your schools so that your preference can be taken into consideration. So number 1 is going to be your first choice. Number 2 will be your second choice. 3 will be your third. 4 will be your fourth, and so on. And then you're going to provide your transportation information. So I'm going to show you an example here in just a second. So here's the really important part. You see this in red. Our application period is November 2nd through December 16th. Can you complete an application after this time? Absolutely. The reason for this application period is for magnet schools. You cannot, if you submit a late application to magnet schools or programs, then you will not be able to be considered because it is a random draw. And then the other thing is it's based on preference or partially based on preference, but once those schools are filled, then those aren't going to be available for it to consider, even if that's your first preference school. So you want to make sure you get that application in during the application period. It is somewhere between 75 to 80% of parents get their first choice when they complete the application during the application period. And that's your first cluster choice, not necessarily your magnet choice.
Lindsay, I think this is a good time it's one of I think of all the questions I get asked by parents, and we've actually had this question asked by Deshane in the chat room, if I apply, let's say I apply today for my child to be in kindergarten, do I get the first choice or not? So a lot of our parents think that it's first come, first serve. When it isn't, it's as long as you apply between November 2nd and December 16th, you're all on the same playing field.
That's exactly correct. So as long as you get it in before that December 16th deadline, you have the same consideration as the person who got it in on November the 2nd. So we just need all those applications in before December 16th, if at all possible. You can access the application from any computer with internet access. You can also access it from your mobile phone. If you would like assistance, our Parent Support Center at Humana is taking appointments to help with those applications. You can go to this link to sign up for a time, and you'll sign up for one of the slots that says school choice. And someone will be there to help you with that. You will need either your parent portal username and password or your portal activation key. So when you're prepared to fill out that application, make sure you have that with you. And then once again, you can make 2 choices for magnet schools or programs. So this is, I'm taking you step by step where you're going to go to complete your application. So right here, you see this website, jcps.me/parent. It's going to take you straight to this screen. You won't have to go to our homepage and navigate and figure out where to go. You can just type in this jcps.me/parent. It's going to take you to our parent screen. You're going to select apply for school. It'll take you to a page that looks just like this. You're going to select apply for elementary, and again, apply for elementary. This is what's going to pop up for you. Welcome to the elementary assignment application. You are either going to enter your username and password or your portal activation key. You don't need to enter both. It won't work if you enter both. So just enter one or the other. If you're using your portal activation key, enter it exactly how you receive it. So it has to be in all capital letters. It's going to come with these dashes between it, so you know exactly which box each combination of letters and numbers go in. And then you're going to log in as a parent. When you log in, this is going to be your application. Now at the top, it's not shown on here, but it'll pre-populate all of your child's information. So it's going to pre-populate your child's name, your address, the guardian's name and address. It'll pre-populate if your child has a sibling that's already enrolled in a JCPS school. And so all of that will be at the top. And then you're going to select, if you have magnet choices, you're going to select your first choice and your second choice. You'll notice when you do that, sometimes you'll go to put a second choice school in and a box pops up and it says, this school is very popular as a first choice and doesn't usually get to their second choice applications. That is just to let you know that if you were torn between two schools, you may want to look at the other one as a second choice, because the first choice, the school you're choosing usually fills with students who selected as a first choice. You want to check this box, I give permission for my child's information to be provided electronically. That just allows us to share information between like early childhood. And I'm not sure that really any of that would be needed because it is a random draw. But just in case, you can select that box. And then here's where you're going to select your cluster schools. And so this is where you'll put your numbers in. So you'll see here there's 7 choices. So you're going to put a 1 next to your first choice, a 2 next to your second, 3 next to your third, so on and so forth. This says check this box if you do not want a cluster assignment. The only reason you would do this is, let's say if your child doesn't get into a magnet program, you're going to send them to a private school or something like that. If your child doesn't get into a magnet program and you're still sending them to a JCPS school, you want to make sure that you go ahead and that you have numbered these cluster schools. That way, when the time comes to assign them to a cluster school, they'll know this application was done timely and it's going to be given the consideration of an on-time application. And then here at the bottom is where you'll select your type of transportation. If you don't know yet, you can select unknown at this time, but if you know it's going to be bus, car, walker, CEP, you can check that as well. And then you're going to submit your application. One thing you'll see, it's not on here, but on the right-hand side of your application, it'll have green check marks or red X's. If there's something that's missing from your application, if it won't let you submit, look up on that right-hand side and see if there's something that has a red X next to it. Is there something that you're missing? And there if it is, then you'll know where to go correct the information. So submitting an application does not guarantee placement in a program or school. And then submitting an additional application will void the previous application. So it's fine to change applications during the application window, but what you don't want to do is submit an on-time application and then change it after the window closes on December 16th. That's going to void your previous application. So you want to make sure when you submit that, if you make any changes, you only do it during this application window. And then these are just what we call the fine print here. We don't have preference for siblings in magnet schools. So we do have preference for siblings in cluster schools. So if you already have a child that attends a cluster school from your address, and you want your child, your next child to go to that same school, you just need to make sure that you select that as number 1 on your application. So it is a preference for our cluster schools. We do not have a sibling preference for magnet schools. Every magnet application is considered an individual application. The only exception to that is for multiples. So if you have twins or triplets, those are treated as a single application. You need a complete one for each of them, but for a magnet program, they would be considered as a single application. And then falsifying information to gain entrance into a school will void your child's eligibility. And waiting lists are not maintained from year to year. So let's say this year you apply for Lincoln Performing Arts and you're placed on the waiting list and you're given number 10. If your child isn't accepted by the 5th day of school, that waiting list is no longer valid. And so if you wanted to try again for the following year, you would need to do a complete application again. It's not going to carry over from one year to the next. So you do need to do an application each year if you're trying to get into a magnet program that you were unable to get into this year. And here's just our phone number and our email address. And I've seen questions flying in, so I'm sure that there's some questions that we can answer for you.
I've done a few of the questions I've answered privately to those people that asked them. I would like to, Lindsay, if you could make me the host again.
Sure. Let's see.
So I am excited to announce that we have a initiative that we have started, and we shared this information with preschool teachers today, that those of you who have children who apply for kindergarten on or before the December 16th deadline, your child will go into a drawing for a free backpack full of a backpack full of school supplies. And I mean, these are really nice backpacks. They're chock full of supplies. They have everything you can imagine that your child would need to start school. Their value is over $100. We will be giving away 2 backpacks per school. So that schools where we have preschool classrooms. So we are in partnership with Metro United Way and the Ready for K Alliance. We thank them for funding that in order for us to provide those backpacks. Again, we will draw 2 names for every school where there are preschool classrooms. So we're in about 40 different schools. So that'll be about 80 backpacks that we're going to give away. Again, to qualify, all you have to do is complete the application on or before December 16th. And we will have your information, so you don't have to do anything else. I can look at the list to see who it is that applied, and we will make those announcements of who won the backpack shortly after December 16th. So that's some exciting news, and an additional incentive for you all to get those applications completed on or before December 16th.
Okay.
Diane, did you see any additional questions in the chat box?
There was an interesting question, which is, can a parent come in and tour a school if he or she wears a mask?
My suggestion would be to call the individual school you're interested in. I think some schools could be doing that. I'm not sure. I don't think it's an expectation, but they may be willing to if you call and ask if they can. And then I see a question, is this only for children not in school, as in don't have a school yet? So this is for children who will be entering kindergarten for the 21-22 school year. And so if your child will be 5 before August 21st of 2021, then this is for you. You will want to complete the application at this time. If your child will turn 5 before between August 1st and October 31st, I believe, there is early kindergarten testing to see if they could be eligible to enroll. And that goes through early childhood, and that application does have to be in before, I think, December 1st. But Jimmy, you can probably speak much better to me than me on
That's
that.
correct. And there's on the JCPS homepage, again, there's a link to that. There's a whole, it's called Petition for Early Admission to Kindergarten. There's a whole committee and a testing process that you would have to go through if that's something an option for you. But I'm assuming most everyone that's in here's child's going to be of age, which is your child turns 5 on or before August 1st, 2021. Your teacher, again, your teacher is a wonderful resource. Your child's preschool teacher, they've received training on this, and they can assist you with this process if needed. Also, the website that Lindsay mentioned, that's a wonderful resource. If you did not receive, for some reason, a hard copy of your choices book that were mailed, you can access the electronic copy on the JCPS homepage. And I encourage you to look at your choices. There's another question. Will a bus transport your child to and from school that's not in their cluster if it's chosen? I don't believe so, Lindsay, unless it's a magnet school.
Right, unless it's a magnet school or program. I think possibly what you are asking about is a transfer. So one of our options that we do have for families is to submit transfer applications. And that would be for a school that's not a magnet school, but not in your cluster. With transfer applications, that window doesn't open until May, the first week of May. And there is no guaranteed transportation with transfers. And so if there's a bus available and there's room on that bus, then sometimes you would be allowed to ride it, but we cannot guarantee transportation with transfers. That is would be the parent's responsibility. And then also I wouldn't bank on a transfer because schools get full, and and then if you haven't put in an application during the application period and then you don't get a transfer and then you're submitting your application late in the game, then a lot of the spots that you're going to be that you will have wanted will not be available. So I would, even if you're considering putting in a transfer application, I would highly encourage you to go ahead and put an application in on time to one of your cluster schools, and then when that transfer window opens, to put it in there. And you can always, if your transfer is granted, then you can always change your school at that time. I've seen a couple of questions about IEPs. And so, yes, your child can apply to any school if your child has an IEP, and the school will work with you to implement that IEP. If your if your child is in a specialized classroom, I would encourage you to call the ECE department and talk to them just about how that process works for ensuring that your child receives the services that they need. But yes, students that receive ECE services can absolutely complete an application.
Now, I know in the springtime they usually have those transition meetings with early childhood. Their teachers will do a meeting with the new school and those teachers to get the student kind of transition and acclimated from early childhood to the elementary school that they're assigned to. So that should be coming up. I'm sure your teachers will be telling you about that, but it'll be late in the spring for those transition meetings.
That is correct. Lindsay, we have a question. If you are not registering to another school, but staying in the current school for kindergarten, will the process be considered enrollment versus registration? I think what she's asking, she has a child in preschool at a certain school, and she's wanting the child to be in kindergarten at that school. So she's asking, is there anything different that she has to do?
You have to apply. You have to complete an application for kindergarten. So even if you want your child to attend the school that they currently attend, you need to complete an application and put that school as number 1 on your application choice. Now, sometimes we find that that school is not in the cluster. So you'll need to check School Finder and make sure that that is a school that's in the cluster from your address, because our clusters are sometimes different from the early childhood placements that are made. But you definitely, if your child is entering kindergarten, you have to put in an application.
And then someone's asking if, are there any schools that do not have speech services? And I think all of our schools have speech services, so that should not be a consideration for you. We have speech at every school. And then if your child is in pre-K at a specific school, do they get any special consideration to stay at their current school?
You just have to rank the schools in your order of preference and put that school as number 1. But no, there's not any special consideration.
Yeah. It's possible that, unfortunately, not all of our elementary schools have preschool in them. So because we have different boundaries for our preschoolers, because we're only in about 40 schools, 40 elementary schools for preschool. And there are, what, 90 elementary schools total, approximately? So we're not in every school. So we have different boundaries. And as Lindsay said, if you want your child to stay in the school where they're currently in preschool, I mean, that's great from a transition standpoint if there's a kindergarten there. Just make sure you put that as your first choice if that's what you want. And that would be, and perhaps that'll be one of the choices that's the choice that you get.
Yeah, and if it's not in your cluster, then you would have to do a transfer application during that transfer application window, which is, again, in early May. And so I would once again want to say I would still encourage you to do a cluster application timely so that you don't have to get a no on your transfer and then you haven't put in a cluster application. And then I see if you can't log into the website, absolutely you can call us if you're having difficulty and we'll be happy to help you do it over the phone. You can schedule an appointment with the Humana building. And I don't want to speak for your early childhood teachers, but I know Jimmy, I think, said earlier that they have been trained to help you as well.
Yeah, I think that's, looks like that's it for our questions.
Can I add one more thing?
Sure, go ahead.
I'll be real quick. Now, I know because I've been helping some parents, I've been working that hotline. When you call in, you do get those 2 choices for an option or a magnet school. And those schools are not in your cluster, usually not in your cluster, because they are district-wide option and magnet programs. And if you pick one of those schools, only schools that transportation is provided will be in that list of choices. So you do get 2 choices for option or magnet program, and then you rank your cluster schools. So if you're interested in any of the optional traditional programs, traditional schools, or magnet programs, just know that you get 2 choices, a first choice and a second choice. If you're not interested in those, you can bypass that and just rank the schools in your cluster in order of choice if you want to do that. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, feel free to ask more questions. And Lindsay put the number in the chat box, the 485-6250. And you can call. We can actually manually do the application for you or help you navigate the system. So
great. That's wonderful contact information, Lindsay and Terry. Thank you so much. Again, reach out to your child's preschool teacher as an additional line of support. They've had some training in this, and if they don't know the answer, they will reach out to someone who does. We want to help demystify this whole process, and we understand it's a complicated process. I'm an employee of JCPS, and it's a little confusing to me, but so I can imagine for some of you it might be, but we don't want it to be and it doesn't have to be, because there's help for you. There's one more question we're going to answer. It said, did anyone answer the question about students on the spectrum, if any schools are specialized for that? It depends on your child's IEP, Nicole, and what support that you would get. No matter what school your child attends, they have to meet the IEP goals for your child, and it doesn't matter where your child attends school. So no, that would not be an issue wherever your child attends school. And again, if they currently have an IEP, Nicole, that was something you want to discuss with the committee, the IEP committee, especially when it comes around to your transition meeting that Terry mentioned earlier in the meeting. Does special needs of a sibling help place the second child coming into kindergarten? I'm not really sure what.
So we have sibling preference for schools within the cluster. If you have a child that's placed in a school specifically because of a special classroom that's meeting their needs, then what you would do is complete a transfer application during that transfer window if that school is out of your cluster. And if that's the case, you would fill out that transfer application and it would be reviewed by the transfer coordinator. And, of course, if we can grant it, we will try to grant it. A lot of that depends on the capacity at the school. So if the kindergarten classroom is already full. So you would want to make sure you got that request in that first week of May so that you could be on the transfer application list as soon as that window opened.
And then someone asked about class size and does that affect student learning? Well, it depends on which research you look at. Some says it does affect it, but I will say this, the cap in kindergarten is 24 students and you have a teacher and an assistant in those rooms. And then some of our schools specialize in small class sizes. If that's something you're interested in, I would look at that choices book to see which those schools are and if that is something that you would be interested in. And there's another question. If your child would be going to school from a different address than your home address, how status affects your cluster? So Jordan, unlike early childhood where we allow you to we place students based on transportation address, that it does not work that way for elementary. Your child's placement will be based upon your home address, not the transportation address. Am I correct, Lindsay?
That is correct. If that would be a hardship for you, you would be able to apply for a transfer in that transfer application period, which starts in May. But again, transfers are not guaranteed. So it'll be considered, but it is based on the capacity at the school. And so it's possible you can select up to 4 schools on a transfer application. And so that is a possibility, but again, transportation is not guaranteed with transfers. If there's a bus available and there's room on the bus, then generally students would be allowed to ride it, but they won't create an extra bus stop for a student that is on a transfer.
Lindsay, you may have answered this already, but just out of curiosity, when do parents find out what their school's going to be? When does that happen?
Yep, that will be by April. Parents will know what their school will be, what their school assignment will be by April. Now for the magnet schools, those are the first choice magnet schools will be announced in March, early March, I believe. Yeah, and then by April, you'll know for sure what your student's assignment is when you get that application in during the application period. And then let's see, what should I put in the part that asks for the first choice and second choice? So those are the magnet schools or programs. So you only need to fill those out if you're interested in a magnet school or program. So that's going to be your Brown, your Brandeis, Lincoln, any of the traditional programs. that's where you would select your first or second choice. You do not have to put that in your application if you're not interested in any of those programs. You can leave that part blank and only complete the cluster.
All right, well, I think that's about it. Again, if you have any additional questions after tonight, feel free to reach out to your child's preschool teacher. And then, of course, try the contact information that Lindsay gave you. She gave you the number to the student assignment office in the chat box, as well as the email address to the student assignment office. I have been recording this presentation, and I'm going to share it with your child's teacher. So that way you could, rewind, fast forward in any part that you want a review of. And then if you have friends or colleagues who weren't able to be here tonight for this presentation, they will be able to access it on YouTube as well. Again, make sure you apply on or before December 16th so you can get in the drawing for one of those 80 backpacks, kindergarten supply backpacks that we will be getting out. So we're really excited about that, and be on the lookout for some resources as well that we're going to be sharing with your child's teacher. I encourage you to access our Ready for K website. I'm going to put in a plug for our Ready for K website. It's actually on the JCPS homepage. Next to the link to the Ready for K website is on the JCPS homepage, right next to the register and apply button. It's a little button that says Ready for K. And that's your one-stop shop for everything that you would ever want to know about how to get your child and you ready for kindergarten. Lindsay, Terry, Diane, thank you for monitoring the chat box, and thank you all for being here tonight, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Please call us if we can help you.
Yes, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your evening.